Hi everyone, welcome back to CCT Technology. Today we're going to be looking at a build that I've been talking about several times in other videos as we continue on with our first gen Threadripper builds. You can still get decently priced Threadrippers that handle most of your work if you're building workstations. Good thing about the motherboards that we're using today are that they are the ATX, so they fit in, or they don't have to worry about the EATX. The other good thing about these motherboards is that they've been out for a while. And because they've been out for a while, for the most part, the BIOS's updates have cured a lot of the original ailments that plagued the Threadripper and the motherboards in the early days. So, what you can learn from this is if you are upgrading your let's say your PSU later on in the future, you can replace these, and these motherboards will handle second gen. Second gen is still pretty high. You're looking at $700-800 for some of the second gen. I've seen the 2920X run from around 490 bucks for the processor, and again that's used. So when the new ones come down, it might be looking at it. But if you look at the graphs, which I did, if you are buying a 1950X and you're comparing it to the 2950X, the difference between the two is so slight that it would be probably better for you just to keep your money, save it up for third gen, and by the time you're ready for that anyways, you're looking at a fourth gen Threadripper anyways. These are tried and true workstation processors. I would recommend using these if you plan on doing any video editing, you want to have a stable machine, and you plan on using it for quite some time. We are going to have the Threadripper cooling this. We're going to have the Supernova from EVGA. It's the 850 G3. We're going to have the V-Color RAM, and if I haven't said it already, I am a fan. V-Color has worked every time I've put it inside of a rig. The RGB is picked up with Aurora Sync out of the Asus. The Skywalker Silver did not work. However, the Prism RGB Gray, these modules will work in the first gen Threadrippers, and most of the boards will accept them for RGB purposes. So to open up the packages, you can look on YouTube. Basically, it's self-explanatory. You want to rip here, and you kind of want to, there's a perforated edge here. Now I'm going to take this one as nice as I can. There is a little bit of a piece of gum there, tape that holds it together. Okay, and you want to save this because there is the code, the barcode for it. And since it is brand new, we'll make sure you have that. Now you're going to pop open the top. And then the bottom comes out just as well. Inside of the case, or inside of the CPU case, you're going to have your instruction. Okay, so instructions are to pull this out. You want to unlock it by turning it, and see if we can turn it, and it takes a little bit of, there you go, clicks, and then I think that it just lifts straight up, and then you got the Ryzen inside of there. Alright, so then your case you can put back over here for later on. This right here is being held on, so you can see there is a little bit of a kind of a tab right here, and you want to pull that off, and then that releases this, and then this little tab right here is part of the CPU, so don't try breaking that off. And I think you're just going to take inside of here, and you're going to squeeze these two. And this right here is 12 cores with additional 12 threads. So it makes it a 24. And we're going to lift it straight up and pull it out in this direction. And then there is the bottom. That's it. You have your main locking mechanism. 2 and 3 are basically ones that help seat it evenly across. There are 2 of these blue tabs. If your board, if these tabs are bent in any way, send it back. These are kind of important. You won't realize it until you get your CPU ready to install. Now, there is a way to loosen these. This right here is really holding a lot of the pressure. These right here, if you pop these off by giving just a little bit of a turn early on, and then just slightly on this one, and then undo 3 and 2 completely. Okay, so these are loose. Now I'm going to put some pressure, just some hand pressure with a finger on here as I take this one off. And lift it straight up. The springing mechanism on this one, I think, is probably the best. Even on the Asus, it's pretty loose. On these ones, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but it's really a solid. I think that's one thing AceRock did really well, is when they got this design set up perfectly. These two pop up like this, and they come straight up. The placement plastic comes straight out like this. Now, you'll hear the videos, they'll tell you about that. There are literally 2 small, thin rails that sit right here and right here. They're plastic, and really the rails are only from right here to right here. So you have this gap back up here when you put the CPU in that it'll be wiggling around. Alright, so we'll take the placeholder off. We'll take out our Ryzen. This is the most ingenious thing that AMD ever did. You never have to worry about getting these things screwed up. So we're gonna, now that we're not gonna be farting around with anything else, we're gonna pull out the protective barrier, the sheet, and pull that off. Now, one thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to inspect all of your pins, especially if you're buying these used on eBay, and you'll want to take a flashlight and shining it in a direction. So for example, in this case, you'd want to come at from angles and go all the way around to make sure that you don't see any shining piece of copper that shines different than the rest of them. So in this one right here, you can basically go all the way around, and I don't have this is not the best of flashlights. You want to get a powerful one and just look all over to make sure that you don't have any issues with bent pins, because one bent pin can make a difference of your CPU working properly. Most of you who have ever built one of these or have built computers in the past, you already know that. But for those who are just starting off with a build like this, there are literally thousands of pins on this thing, and if you miss one of these things, it could be ugly. It could really be ugly. So don't forget to look at your pins. If you see any bent pins or you see anything, send it back to the seller and get a different one. Because once you fire this up, this right here is the most important part, and they aren't cheap. Especially the newer ones. If you got in a 3rd generation, you're looking at $1,800 for a 3rd gen. Some now, because everyone's been buying them up because of Corona, some of these ones on eBay have gone up to $2,500 to $3,000 for the new 3rd gen Ryzen Threadrippers. All right, to put this in, you're going to line it up and put it in and try catching these rails right here. There's a rail here and a rail here, and you want to catch it all the way down. Now it's going to be, when you let go, it seems like it's seated, but the reality is there is almost a 1/4 inch gap at the bottom, and I don't know if I can get this. Let me see if I can zoom in on this, because this is a mistake that some people make. Let me see if I can get this so you can see that. Here, right here, and then this piece right here, this black piece, that's where this is supposed to line up to. So you'll hear people say, taking the top and push down until you hear it click. Now, that has been properly seated. If you don't do that and you wrench down on this thing, you are likely to damage pins underneath. So, it seems to be sitting in there pretty good. You're going to use these blue tabs to push down to get the initial seat. It'll click like that. Now, this goes on top and simply closes down. Now, most people are going to tell you, just like this instruction says, 1, 2, 3 is how you close it. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to put some pressure down with your hand, just a little bit, and just get enough in there so that it starts. I would do 1, maybe 1.5 until you feel just a little bit of tension. Now you go to 2 and you put some pressure on it, and try getting it to seat. And then you do the same thing for 3, making sure that it gets that first thread, and they're in. Now, you're just basically going to hand tighten these all the way through. Okay, so I'm about right where I would need it. So the next thing you want to do is, remember, same order. You want to now go here until you first feel the first click. Do not over tighten. Okay, so 3 is about locked in tight. 1 is locked in tight. 2 is. So we start off with 1. And we're just going to give it just a turn until we feel the first click of the tool. 1. 2. 'Once you're done, that's as tight as you need it to be. You'll want to save the tool, because if you decide to upgrade, which these boards still will allow you to upgrade into the 2nd gen, and trust me folks, the 3rd generation right now are running way over top, but 2nd gen, because they're so close to 1st gen, I guarantee in 2 years from now, those 2nd gens are going to be something almost dirt cheap, because 3rd gen is so much more powerful than 2nd gen, and certainly with the 1st gen. So with these motherboards, you'll just wait, and then all of a sudden you've got an opportunity to buy 2nd gen for, you know, $200, $300, $400, as opposed to right now I think they're still at between $1,200 and $1,300. Some of them are low on eBay. But anyways, Threadripper. This is a phenomenal cooler. So we're going to pop open the top. Inside of your Threadripper, you'll have a standard package that comes in there, plastic on top, instruction booklet on the inside. There is extra Cooler Master thermal paste. We're not going to be using that in this build. This will just go to my father-in-law just in case he needs to have extra in the future. You'll see that this fell out. This is actually a cord that will fit on the front side, and this goes back into a USB port, and that assists the computer with knowing what's going on, and I think with RGB. So you have your additional SATA for power, you have a fan, and then you have USB, and this would be for controlling the RGB. So when we install these, similar thing, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll correspond with the holes on the CPU mount. I've already pulled those and set them so that they're ready to accept RAM. And the reason why is because you want to set, these ones need to be, the farthest ends need to be populated first. Then the inner third needs to be populated. And then I think it doesn't matter at that point. You can do the second or dim and then the fourth. Alright guys, we're back now. Let's open this bad boy up. As I've told you before, you get to watch as I open it up for the first time. So if it is damaged in any way, you also get to wait until I get it back from either Amazon or Newegg. Now I know I only mentioned Amazon and Newegg. There are obviously more distributors around. I have found that Newegg was my go-to choice for a long time. Prices are competitive, but with delivery, that's the reason why, for the most part, I've gone with Amazon for some of my builds now. But in the early days, when Amazon was only selling books, and Newegg was really kind of the king, I really did like Newegg. The handles of the cardboard actually go in, and as you put your hands in like this, they also hit up against the handles that are in the styrofoam. So it was wedged in there, and when you do that, then all of a sudden your computer case comes out. Relatively easy. Alright, so handy dandy, nice little handles here. I just got a little bit of a shock, so I'm glad I have my motherboard off of the table. Here's the case. Windows seem to be intact. We had a height restriction with my father-in-law's case, and so that's why we've opted for this one. It's shorter by about 3 or 4 inches compared to what we have right now for him. This, unfortunately, does not have what I was originally looking for, which was 2 bays to do CD-ROMs. And so what we're going to do is we're actually just going to have him use an external CD-ROM or DVD to play. I'm going to take out the glass because, as anyone who knows has built these before, you set them right next to or behind you, and all of a sudden you've got broken glass. So we'll take that off. Good features about this case: we do have the bracket to allow you to have vertical graphics card display. This comes with the hard drive bays, and you can also remove this whole thing if you want and just put in liquid cooling. It only has one fan in the front, one fan in the back, but both are the 140 and they are the blues. What we'll be doing is taking this blue fan and putting it into the front so that you get good view. The back may not be readily viewable, and so we'll have, again, either one of these two put in the back. The top of the case does have your magnetic screens, and it does allow you to put in, like most of your modern cases, you can put in a radiator at the top, and you have all of the brackets in work up here. Cable management is pretty nice. What I really like about this is I have the top side USB connectors, your button. This is going to be sitting on the ground, and so my father-in-law tends to put his USBs in at the top, and the ones that face out, it's right now near his desk, and so if you've got USBs in there, they might break. So pen drives are kind of a hassle right here. But having the power button and your USB right here available is going to be super nice, and that's why we chose, well, at least I chose this case. This is being presented by my brother-in-law and sister-in-laws. Brad and Nicole and Monique went in with me to do this, so they helped get this started up and going. So I want to give a shout out to them because I wouldn't be able to do this without their help. So now we're going to pop off the front of the case, and this you should be able just to pop it off, but if you put your thumb underneath and just give it a little pressure, you should be able to pop it off. Don't just wrench on it, because there's the two prominent prongs for the front plate or front face are right here, and these ones really hold in most of this. So if you put a lot of pressure and just rip it up, you are likely to break the other ones that are on the other side. So highly suggest you don't do that. We'll put that here. No screen in the front, no screen in the faceplate. The screens are on the side, sealed in the front, and then it has your breathing comes in from here and then from the bottom. Now there is no screen on the bottom right here, so your intake is coming from here and from the sides, and hopefully most of the sides do the delivery and not from the bottom, because without some type of shield here or system for filtering out the dust, you're going to pick dust directly up from your carpet and from your hardwood floors. The good thing about these are these little strips inside of here, and I'm not going to pull them out right now, but they are removable, so you can kind of pull them out. But it would take, I think it's a dismantle of this whole thing to take those out, and it's not worth it. You literally have to pop the plate out. This is not glass, just so you know. This is acrylic. It will scratch. But at the same time, it's acrylic, so it's not going to break like glass. All right. Front allows for a second 140 in. And what's interesting is it's got space for your traditional where your CD-ROMs would be. In fact, you got a bracket that looks like that's what would normally fit in there. But obviously, it's not going to fit in there. This is basically just a bar to bring it across. I'm going to look a little bit deeper into this when we report back later on. What they should have done, and Thermaltake, if you just remember this, I know that your cable's coming through here, but if you could do your design so that it comes through the back, this right here could be your third fan. It's just about right size for a third fan to fit in there. So I'm not quite sure why you just only have room for 3. And I know that you have your radiator will be tucked up really close here if you put a radiator on the inside and closest to the fans back here. So if you have your radiator here, you're going to run into an issue with this cables here. I do like the Thermaltake cases. They have a lot of nice features. They spend some time on it. I'm interested in looking into the AZA cases that we're going to build for this other project that we have going on. And again, that's that folding at home for my niece, Taisley. And it is orange, and that is for childhood leukemia, well, childhood cancer. So we're going to be putting in a addressable RGB in the back of the case so that we can turn it orange initially when we have it set up. All right, power supply. We have all of our cables. We'll push these off to the outer edge. I am a big fan of EVGA's power supplies. And if I could only buy the Supernovas, that's all I would buy. Some of the guys on YouTube, they're so interesting to watch because they've always got some small comment to make. And they can keep the conversation going on. I have yet to build that knack because sometimes it sounds like I'm just rambling and I don't want to bore the hell out of you. I don't know if you'd just rather watch me put these things together quickly, or if you would rather me just yak about stuff that may not be important at all to you. But when I do see something important, I will let you know. And this video, I do know, is going to be shown to both my father-in-law and his family, and to the general public at large anyway. So I don't want to bore them or get people a little agitated with any of the stuff that I'm saying, because I think that sometimes when you don't have anything to say, stupid stuff comes out of your mouth. And I have 3 of these designated because I think he's got quite a few hard drives that we're going to put in there. I know he's using the purple Enterprise ones because he's got massive amount of video that he's been storing. And the reason why he has all these things stored is because he likes to see the memories that he has for his grandkids and for otherwise the security as well. So now you're wondering why I'm installing it right here, and some of you are going to watch this video, you're going, whoa, 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 what are you doing? I have another set that's going to go here in the first and second. So if you're seeing me put this in, you're supposed to put it on the outside working in, but every other one as you work in. So for example, if I were doing this, I'll take this out right now. I'd go here and here, here and here, and then I'd go to the inside by skipping one closest to the CPU, and then going back to this spot right here, and then this spot right here. So all 3 of your DIMMs would be full at that point in time. And of course you have all four, it doesn't matter. So again, you want to do these ones. But I don't have the RAM with me right now because I have to go grab it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and fill in the spots that I know that I can fill, that if I put the Wraith on aren't, you know, that I won't be able to have access to them. So I'm going to put these on right now. There we go. Kind of rock it around just a little bit. On these ones, you want to go backwards just 1/2 turn until you feel put a little pressure on, feel that first one, and then take a full turn in and do the same thing on the opposite side. So you take the back till you got that, and then put a full turn in. And thing over here, same thing, backwards until you hear that pop, and then go in. Because what happens is you're setting the thread. I'm running that USB for the Wraith right through the back side. So it basically is going to come over and hopefully traverse through. They won't see very much of it. Alright, so we're going to put that USB back in here. Everything to try hiding and get rid of as much of this cable mess as we can. So we have a little extra room, so maybe I can push this down here and run it along the motherboard. There we go. There. That looks good. That looks really good. Standard power and reset. Go right by the dummy connector. Power is usually on top. Resets on the secondary level. Most of the cable management is ready to roll. Everything is hooked up. We'll need to get those 2 other DIMMs of RAM. I may just pull them from my machine so I can test it out and make sure everything is running properly. Okay, I'm going to put the extra SATA power cords back through the hard drive bays and keep them in there so they're out of the way for right now. Front side, cable management looks good. Not as obtrusive, not a lot of excess in there, so we should be good. All we need to do is put in 2 more sticks of RAM just to fire it up and test it. Okay, we've got her ready to go. Windows loaded up. We put the AMD Ryzen Master on to make sure the temperatures are correct. For some reason in the BIOS, temperature is reading twice that of the amount that's coming out of software. Both the CPU ID, hardware monitor, and AMD Ryzen Master are indicating that the CPU without any load is running around 30 degrees, which is what it should be. In the BIOS, though, it is appearing at 68 degrees, and that was alarming for me, so I had to go back and check and make sure I wasn't doing something incorrect. The contact is correct with the motherboard. The fan, which is our rear, I was worried about because it was running at full speed, and I figured out that the setting was not quite where it needed to be at. Anyways, it's now in not silent mode. It is actually in a mode to monitor what's going on with the CPU. It's monitoring the CPU temperature and then adjusting it appropriately. So happy with the results. We are running this currently on a Intel SSD drive. This is a spare that I have. We'll be transferring and loading up. I'm pretty sure my father-in-law has a M.2. Ultimately, this is a really, I am super impressed with how fast this particular model is. I mean, it runs really, really fast.